great example. So we had another question come in, which actually is a good segue to our next theme around performance management. The question is really, this idea that some companies are maybe foregoing it, performance management in the near term, which is certainly an interesting trend, and I guess raises a question about, is that just a kind of temporary pause, or maybe is that harboring of things to come? But maybe you could talk a little bit about that issue, as well as others that you heard in the working group around how companies are addressing performance management in the current context.
Yeah. Pre-pandemic, we were all talking about performance management, a few years back, and companies moving to no performance ratings and those types of things. Most CAHRS companies that were part of the working group had left their performance management processes, and I emphasize that, largely unchanged, right? If you think about a model and when you should change things, certainly external factors are a part of when you do that, but I wouldn't say that in the midst of those external factors, you should really look at overhauling your whole performance management system. And so the fact that these CAHRS companies were largely unchanged, I think is the right approach given where we are right now. The bigger challenges, though, for companies have been, how have they been impacted by the pandemic from a financial sense? So, for example, some companies are vastly exceeding their financial expectations, right, due to the products they provide and the services they provide, that type of thing. And of course, others are underachieving due to these unusual circumstances. And so really what's happened, the discussions have really focused more on the impact to, the external market impact to their internal reward systems, right? Pay, bonuses, those types of things. And so, so obviously you probably are at two different extremes. If you have financial constraints, you're not going to be giving bonuses. And one thing we talked about there then was, okay, how do you keep morale up? And how do you emphasize why performance management is still important during those kinds of times? Because many of our employees, unfortunate to us in HR, who have been trying to separate this, they only see it as a pay mechanism, right? As opposed to a feedback type of mechanism. And so those were some of the struggles that were brought up. Others on the other end of the spectrum who have really benefited financially during these times have talked about, okay, what are the temporary types of things we need to look at adding for our workforce during this time, and emphasize temporary because they don't necessarily think these market dynamics are going to last a long time. And so again, you don't want to shift your whole performance management system right now, but you do want to look at, flexibility due to COVID related factors with bonuses and time worked and hazard pay and, all those kind of things. And so I think you just do need to be really careful and think more about how long is this going to last? What's the real impact here? And what should that mean? And how we think about reward systems. And I think as we do go forward, companies will really have to focus more on the feedback aspects. So we've never been great at that, and certainly in the performance management discussions we had pre-pandemic, there was a lot of focus on more frequent, informal feedback as part of performance management. And now we need to add in the remote aspect, and we also need to add in the fact that, who do you solicit feedback from? Who are people interacting with? How do you get that information? And what are the things we need to do to ensure people are getting the feedback they need going forward? So that's where I think we'll focus next.